Okay. And welcome to Safety and Information. Welcome to today's full council meeting. Welcome to members of the public who are attending in the public gallery, those in the conference hall, and those watching the meeting via our YouTube channel. For those in the building, I would like to draw your attention to the emergency evacuation procedure. Please leave the chamber by the nearest exit and congregate by the cathedral. If you have a mobile phone, please ensure it's set to silent or switched off to avoid disruption. As with any council meeting, please treat each other with due courtesy, tolerance, and respect. It's important that the public and members can engage in our democratic meetings and share their views about a range of issues. However, we must endeavor to do this in a way that doesn't cause offense to others. Please do consider this when making contributions at the meeting today. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Kalashoni, Eddie, Kola, and Ribbenton, and also apology from our leader, Tony, due to the health issues just left 10 minutes ago. Are there any other apologies? Thank you. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Please, can I ask whether any councillors have any interest to declare regarding the items on today's agenda? Okay. Agenda item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the previous meeting of full council held on the 12th of May 2026 be agreed as a correct record. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Can I take it that minutes are agreed? Right. Thank you. Agenda item 5, Lord Mayor's business. There is none. Agenda item 6, public forum. 30 minutes will be allowed for this item, which is split into 15 minutes for petitions and statements and 15 minutes for questions. Details of the petitions, statements, and questions received have been published in our website. I will go through the list, calling on those that have indicated they planned to attend the meeting. Speakers are asked to pay attention to the traffic lights on the dais and to start to wrap up when the lights turn to amber. There was one public forum petitions received for this meeting. There were a total of 67 public statements received. 19 members of the public indicated that they planned to attend and speak to their statements. They are displayed on the screen and will run through those statements in order. I will invite each person to speak for 1 minute. Please summarize your statement and remember they were published for councillors and the public to read in advance of the meeting. Please note that the content of the public statements are the opinion of the submitter and do not reflect the views of the council. I would like to take a moment to remind everyone of the need to be respectful and courteous throughout the meeting today. Statement 1 is from Gail Ans. Are you here? Okay, if Gail's not here, then I will go. The next one will be the Craig Turner. Okay, subject to Harry Crook Center fish ponds. You've got 1 minute.
My Lord Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Craig Turner and have ran down in the District Amateur Boxing Club since 1992. We have a proud history of providing diversionary activities for young people who are at risk of criminality and exclusion. I have submitted my statement outlining in detail the appalling way we were treated following the council's scrapping of redevelopment plans at our base, named after former Lord Mayor Harry Crook. The main point of my speaking today is to seek clarity as to why we were ignored following the decision not to proceed. Had we not mounted a media campaign, we wouldn't have been afforded a response, never mind any action. Is it usual for voluntary organisations to be discarded in this way? The council needs to rebuild trust with Downend Boxing Club, whose voluntary work with young people has been dismissed as irrelevant. I urge those councillors who have responsibility to support and develop the priceless contributions we make to young lives. My sincere thanks.
Thank you, Craig. Okay, the next question goes to the Phoebe Biddle, countering ageism and sexism, respecting all the women's voices. Okay, not here. Oh, it's here.
That prides itself on its progressive approach, I hope we can assume that everyone here understands the term intersectional and the intersectional nature of oppressions. For instance, gay and disabled people who are both gay and disabled suffer particular oppressions, just like older people who are female. Bristol Women's Voice has asked for the opinions of older women, and Bristol City Council says it welcomes public participation in democracy. Yet in this very chamber, older women like us have been met by a volley of obfuscation, sneering and facile comments, endless interruptions, official warnings and peremptory scoldings. Some councillors have even literally turned their backs on women by walking out of public forum sessions as women speak. Given this litany of mistreatment of older women, when is Bristol City Council going to demonstrate that it respects the voices of older women and our experience?
Thank you.
And takes our concerns seriously? Thank you.
Okay. And to the next one will be go to the Georgia Carbonaro, RBZ and van around the St. Andrews Park. Is Georgia here? Okay, judges, and then we'll go. The next one will be the Kelly Warner, transparency and public confidence in planning decisions. Is Kelly here? Okay, Kelly not here. We go to the next one, Elizabeth Mulholland, Bristol as a city of harm reduction. Okay, go. The next one will be the Sharon Smithen, the Downs.
Hi, I expect my statement to be slightly cut, so I'm going to extemporise a little bit. I just want you to know that I'm actually the mother of a disabled son. He receives a lot of support from Bristol City Council, which I'm grateful, and indeed he's with his father tonight, I'm hoping, because his PA's just left. My son was unable to access the Downs last year, and I'll tell you what happened. I went to get him from his drama group, which is really important because he has autism and complex needs and needs 50 hours a week PA support, which you know means high needs because you're councillors. I went to get him, and I don't drive, and I took him down to Clifton Downs Shopping Centre, and I said, right, Oliver, we're going to have to get on the bus. And he said, I can't do the bus. And I thought, oh no. I said, okay, that's fine, because home is only a short journey. He said, we can't walk home. I said, why can't we walk home? He said, I am too scared to go across the Downs. I was sat there, and it was about 3:30, and I went into Coffee One. And I was there for 2.5 hours, ringing up my husband, who works as a very busy lawyer, saying, please, can you come and fetch me? I'm stuck because I can't get home across the Downs. Buses went by, and he refused them.
Thank you. Then we'll go to the next one, Alex Richardson, Downend Amateur Boxing Club.
Hello, greetings all. I am current Vice Captain of the University of Bristol Boxing Academy. We are indebted to Downend ABC, and I can say wholeheartedly I've seen firsthand how we've changed lives of young people from the ages of 6 to upwards of 50. These people require Downend and places like this to develop and to be safe. Not only is it a boxing club, we teach life skills, and need places like this to have sanctuaries for people. We've brought people off the streets, brought them away from knife crime, gun crime in Bristol, and kept them safe and helped them turn a leaf. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item goes to the ZENG, from injunction to enforcement, the enforcement gap.
Thank you, Chair. I have to cut my words for the time limit. Over the past months, I have been continuing monitoring vehicles' activity on downs. The evidence showed that despite the injunction, new arrivals continued throughout June, with a clear peak on the 13th to 17th June. This suggests that the key challenge is consistent and effective enforcement. I appreciate the work of the council officers, but residents often receive slow and generic response. Clear signage across the downs could also support complaints and enforcement. I hope my evidence will help strengthen enforcement and improve communication with local residents. Another thing is, if you noticed the screen, you'll find 1/3 of today's issue about the downs. And in the 35 issues, 32 is about the enforcement. So I want the enforcement should be prioritized for the issue in the downs and resolve the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zen. And the next one will be the Janet Wren, Brislington Meadows Roads.
Good evening. Brislington Meadows is currently under development for 260 dwellings. It is a site of steep gradients, and on the plans submitted by Keepmoat, there is no indication of how many social and affordable homes will be on roads that are not fully LTN 1/20 compliable. It will therefore be no surprise when Keepmoat approach the council to reduce the number of social and affordable homes they can build, citing the reason that the development is not financially viable to have these types of properties due to the extra incurred costs of roads not being adopted by the council. Will this be another example of building companies dictating what they will do and what the council must accept? The meadows should not be developed on. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next one will be the Hilary Raydon, Brislington Meadows Reserved Matters application. Is Hilary Raydon here? Okay, go to the next one. Will be the Lucy Bell Reeves, a proposal for Brislington Meadows. Okay, not here. The next one. Dan Aykroyd, committee seats, remuneration and deep disgust. Okay, Dan not here. Okay, and the next will be the Jeze Zayla, EBLN, the false traffic volume data claim. Okay, not here. The next will be the Julia Turner, it is worth decimating health and well-being offerings in Sorry? Sorry, Mr. Min. So, okay, so it will be the Jeze Zayla, the EBLN, the false traffic, we said that, just not here. So the Matt Sanders, the EBLN through traffic data gap. Is here? Is Jesse here?
No, he's not.
Okay, so then will be Matt Sanders, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. You've got 1 minute, please.
The main stated rationale for the East Bristol livable neighbourhood is to reduce through traffic by blocking roads with modal filters. But this causes collateral damage to local residents. So the scheme is only justified if there was a significant amount of through traffic in the first place. But the full business case document does not contain any data to show how much of the original volume was through traffic and how much was legitimate local traffic. Meanwhile, the council only monitored 10% of the internal roads and placed the traffic sensors right next to a bus gate or modal filter, where they were guaranteed to record a reduction. But all the local drivers who previously used those roads are now forced to drive longer routes through the other internal roads, which were specified by the council and which were bound to see an increase, yet those roads were not monitored. So the council has no idea how much the total traffic volume has changed, and no idea how much of that change consisted of through traffic. So there is no evidence the trial was successful or that the scheme was ever justified in the first place.
Thank you. The next will be the Julia Turner. Okay, if Julia said, then we will go the next one. Will be the Mike Aldreeve Step It Up program. Is Mike here? Not here. Okay, go to the next one. David Richwell, Public Transport with the Great Bristol City Region.
That First Group have withdrawn their revenue protection inspectors from our bus network with very little consultation because it was a national decision. We need safety for our young people who are out on the free travel offer. The Mayor's raised it today, I believe, and I'm very concerned about public transport safety. Women and girls, LGBT community, we should not have a public transport network without inspectors and without safety officers. All the other city regions have those officers, including Bournemouth and Christchurch, and we do not. So I'd urge the council and Ed Plowden in particular, we start raising this with First, and we need to make sure we have a safe public transport network. And I welcome the work Councillor Edwards is doing on this, but we can't go on without nobody out on the street. My other point I want to raise today is National Express, Novum, are withdrawing all their services out of Bristol after 4:30 in the afternoon to Gloucester, Cheltenham and Birmingham, and they're not running very many late or even day services now through to Plymouth, Exeter, Torbay and Plymouth and at Penzance. That needs a look at by the Combined Authority and Bristol City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question will be the Caroline Dunn, VAWG and Bristol Policing.
Hello. I'm sorry I'm already breathless. I'd appreciate a little extra time. Thanks to all the councillors for choosing our new Somali origin mayor, another progressive step that many people are very pleased about, including myself. I regret, however, that the silver motion is not also a golden one, for while drugs obviously lead to many deaths, the lack of independent living and the lack of a decent home lead to many unobtrusive deaths. And in line with this, I must mention that the highly damaging decision regarding the EBLN and urge all councillors in any way possible to implement as many changes in the interests of safety as soon as possible, because as the House of Commons itself recognises, we are actively involved in an external war in many complex ways. And obviously also to the most serious point, violence against women and girls. For generations we have been, unfortunately, involved in an internal war whereby a lot of men attack in multiple ways half the population. Now I urge that this must be dealt with by zero tolerance, and I ask the councillors to do what they can to bring things in to implement zero tolerance, because attitudes dismissing women and not listening to them are where it starts and must be challenged. All too often things are decided over our heads and against us. Nothing about us without us is a mantra for women, not just the disabled. And so within this context, I greatly welcome Emma Edwards' new task and finish group with respect to the Transport Committee, whereby I envisage we can now be involved in some genuine co-design of our public transport policy, which I have previously described as somewhat misogynistic at best. This new group is an excellent development. I am so pleased about it. High time too, and it is a real and great achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caroline. Okay, and we will now move to the public questions received. The questions received and written responses from the relevant committee chair have been published on the website. A list is shared on the screen now. 69 questions were received from members of the public. 24 of those have indicated that they wish to attend. We will try to cover as many questions as possible in the 15 minutes available. It might not be possible for everyone to speak, so we ask for your patience as we run through the questions. Due to the large number of questions submitted, I will be using my discretion as chair to call a variety of individuals to ensure that we discuss as many subjects as possible. When I call you, your question will be displayed on the screen. You are invited to ask a maximum of 2 supplementary questions based on the written response. The leader or relevant chair will reply verbally to your supplementary questions. Question 1 is from Neil Norton. Are you here, Neil? So it's Neil here. Okay, Neil is not here then. We'll go to the second question. Clarissa Bain, why is Bristol City Council ignoring the EHRC? Is Clarissa here? Okay.
Given that the former chair of the EHRC has said that service providers, associations and public functions should not wait for the code of practice to be published to make changes in order to comply with the law, and also that duty bearers must assure themselves of their legal responsibilities in their own specific circumstances and seek independent legal advice where necessary. Given this, has the council taken independent legal advice? If not, why not? If it has, will the council publish its legal advice?
Councillor Edwards, could you respond, please?
Thank you. As Tony's away, I will be answering on his behalf. We recognise that this is an important topic for many people, but the council is currently reviewing its policy in light of the draft code being laid in Parliament, and so it would not be appropriate to preempt that process. But what I can say is that we remain committed to ensuring that all staff and all residents are treated fairly, with dignity and respect, and that those principles will continue to guide our approach.
The next question goes to Cherry Davis. Can I use the women's toilets in the City Hall? Is Jerry here? Okay, we'll go. The next one will be the George Bainbridge, Transparency and Complaint Handling. And that will be responded to Councillor Brown. Is George not here? Okay. So the second again. So George, 2 questions missed. So the next one will be the Zomac South Bristol Livable Neighbourhood. And that will be responding to Councillor Plowden. Is Zoe here? Okay, Zoe's not here. The next one will be the Nathan Ethel, East Bristol Livable Neighbourhood. Is Nathan here? Okay, Nathan not here. The next one will be the Kelly Warner, Meanwhile Sites. Is Kelly here? Okay, Kelly not here. The next one will be the Sharon Smithen. Sharon here? Okay, Sharon, also you have 2 supplementary questions.
Right. Okay, for my first supplementary question, I was wondering in terms of how much you all love the Downs, and I think we will hopefully have a unanimous on that. What are we going to do about the current fire risk that we have? I was quite appalled to see a whole load of barbecues, some on the ground, and incredibly, this is the Pièce de la Resistance, one under a tree because they wanted shade, which is very dry, with long grass immediately adjacent to it, and I thought this whole thing is going to go up in flames. I think it's quite shocking that we aren't having much more vigorous enforcement because someone will get hurt. It's not very fair to the firefighters who have to come out to put these flames out, and we know that this is happening around Bristol. So I don't understand why we don't have a blanket ban like Birmingham does. A blanket ban, no barbecues. Okay, it's straightforward. Everyone understands that. That's what Birmingham does. That's what most boroughs in London are doing. And my second question regarding the events is, why has it taken me to tell you that all the events are illegal and that you're acting ultra vires? All due respect, but you've got a legal team. Why are you only looking up the law now? Why didn't you know about that case a year ago? Your legal team are terribly, I'm shocking that they haven't kept you abreast. Every single event that's happened this year is happening illegally, and I'm surprised your organisers are not upset about it, because you had no planning permission, okay? And that is pretty bad that me, a layperson, is telling you that, and you will find I am correct, okay? And the third thing, regarding the injunction and basic enforceability, if I was to, I don't drive, but were I to go down a bus lane tomorrow, I would get a fine in the post within 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure, for 80 quid. Were I to drop a piece of litter in the street in Bristol City, in Broadmead, someone was complaining, they got an £80 fine. Why does it take so long to basically...
Sharon, will you wrap up, please, your questions?
That's it, basically those three.
Thank you. Councillor Parson, I think you will respond with these questions. Oh, Steve Williams. Okay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. No, it's me. Trying to answer those. Hello, Sharon. Nice to put a face to all the social media posts. There were several questions, I think, in that. On the legal basis of festivals and events taking place, we do know about that. I was briefed about that, as were other councillors months ago. It's an issue that affects every local authority in the country, emanating from the Lambeth case. So we do know about it, and I am awaiting clear legal advice and planning advice about how we proceed, but it does affect every local authority in the country. As to fires, in the earlier session of questions to members from councillors, Councillor Weston asked me about fires in Blaze, which we are trying to get on top of at the moment, and I made the very clear, common sense, obvious statement that no one in their right minds should be lighting barbecues or fires in any of our public spaces, whether it's grassland or woods at the moment. But the council will issue a communication to that effect. I think your third question was about enforcement on the Downs. I think that's what you were saying. Enforcement of the injunction is very important to us, otherwise there is no point in having it. We don't want to get back into the situation where a problem is allowed to start on a small scale by people coming on Friday night and thinking they're going to get away with it. We absolutely see the moral hazard in that, and we're going to make sure that we have either officers or other people enforcing the injunction over the weekend. Signs have gone up. Leaflets have been printed to give to people who've arrived perhaps not knowing about the injunction, and we are absolutely determined that we're not going to see this problem mushroom again.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And now we'll go to the Wendy Stevenson. Advice to trans-identified people wishing to use facilities that align with their gender identity but not their sex. They'll be responding, hopefully, will be Councillor Edwards.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Council Day.
Thank you. Based on the written response you've given me, I'd like to ask, is it possible that a woman using facilities signposted ladies on council premises may be confronted by a man, albeit with the protected characteristic of gender reassignment, nevertheless a man?
Like I say, we're not going to be commenting on the ruling until we've looked at the code.
You're not going to be commenting on, sorry, what?
Like I said before, it's not appropriate for us to comment until we've looked through the ruling and how that applies to this council. But what we can say is that we put at the forefront everybody's dignity and protection.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, I will go to the next one. Well, it says only one I got. One question I got in here. Minute allow. Sorry, Wendy. I got only one question you got, not two supplementary questions you got. Unfortunately. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you. Okay, I will go to the next one now. Catherine Della, Van Dwelling around St. Andrew Park. They'll be responding, Councillor Parsons. Is Catherine here? Okay, Catherine not here. Oh, is Catherine here? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your answer to my question about the good practice in Eastern Leisure Centre. My question is, when you refer to the women-only changing rooms and swim gym sessions at other leisure Bristol centres, you refer to them as women-only. Could you please explain whether you mean biological women or anyone who identifies as a woman? Members of the public in the council chamber, I am talking to the council. Thank you. Or anyone who identifies as a woman, as at the Bristol University women's swimming only sessions, which are not just for women, they are for women, anyone who identifies as a woman. So if the council funded leisure centres are women only changing rooms and centres, it would be helpful to know what your definition of a woman is. Otherwise we don't know who's in there, who can go in or who can't go in.
Yeah, could you wrap up, please, your questions? Thank you. Councillor Edwards, please, could you respond?
Thank you. I don't actually have access to all the information of all the leisure centres in Bristol. I imagine that they will be following the same guidelines as us to wait and to look at the code, but I would hope that they would do the same of treating everybody, their staff and their patrons, with dignity, kindness and respect.
So, thank you. I think you've done your questions, and we will thank you. Catherine, thank you for your questions, and we heard you clearly. And now we will go to the last question, will be the Fadumo Farah, Barton House, C365 software. So, Fadumo is here? Okay, is Fadumo here? Okay, so Fadumo is not here. That concludes the questions received from members of the public. I would like to inform members of the public that the adjournment for today's meeting is expected at 7:30 p.m. I invite you to remain if you'd like to hear the other agenda item. No? If not, please leave as quietly as possible. Thank you. Please, can I have order in the public gallery? If the disruptions to the meeting continues, I will have no choice but to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll go. Unfortunately, the public forum is over now. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, it would be good if we could hear one question from St Andrew's Park, because they have been waiting for some time.
Unfortunately, the public forum is finished now, so we shall have to stick the time. Thank you, Councillor Tim. Okay, can we continue? Okay, agenda item 7, petitions notified by councillors. There was one councillor petition from Councillor Vanney on pedestrian safety in Brislington. You have 1 minute to introduce it, Councillor Vanney. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. So my petition is entitled Prioritise Pedestrian Safety in Brislington. I've just checked online and it's now got over 400 signatures, which is not bad for a hyper-local issue. So basically, the bottom of Bloomfield Road in Brislington West has been cut off for many years to prevent rat running. And this space is now a shared space for pedestrians and cyclists, and it's quite a busy shared space. Unfortunately, in recent years, it's increasingly been used by motorcyclists and especially delivery drivers as a shortcut, cutting across the pavement and endangering pedestrians and cyclists. And there have been many close misses, near misses, and I think it's only a matter of time before there is a collision. So the police are aware of this issue. We've talked to police on many occasions. They have been down there ticketing abusers, but they can't be there all the time. So obviously we need a redesign to make it physically impossible for motorcyclists to abuse this space. Thank you to everyone who signed the petition, and thank you for listening. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vanney. Right. Agenda item 8, Bristol Youth Council update. This item is for noting. I would like to call on the members of the Youth Council to introduce the report.
Moving on. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all enjoying yourselves so far. My name is Leon Green, and I'm one of our 3 youth members of Parliament in Bristol. I'll be talking about the Youth Council, which I'll refer to as the BCYC. The BCYC is a group of 29 motivated young people. We are passionate and we work hard to amplify the voices of those we represent. We were elected in February this year under one of our biggest turnouts ever, of over 11,500 young people across 65 polling stations. Now, I'm sure we can all agree that's quite the statement. Young people are louder and prouder than ever. Over the past 6 months, we've had our 2-month induction period in which we had our annual residential, where we all got to know each other. And we've held 2 area youth forums where we gathered the concerns of young people in our local areas. Tonight, you will hear from our hard-working councillors, and we hope you gain understanding into our commitment to representing young people. Thank you.
My name is Elijah May. I'm a trans man, and I'm fairly relieved those people are out of the room. I'm going to explain how... the Youth Council chose the main 3 priorities of young people in Bristol. Thanks to the dedication of the previous council and the 100+ young people who attended the annual Youth Voice conference in October last year, young people citywide voted to decide on what were the most important issues for us to work on. The topics we saw overwhelmingly presented were equality and discrimination, safety and mental health. In order to gather the opinions of Bristol's young people, we coordinated our first area youth forum. We were also aware that not every young person could have their voice heard from the area youth forums alone, so we sent out the Have Your Say form. With social media promotion and school participation, we gained an additional 380 responses. Hopefully, everyone in this room understands the importance of ensuring accessibility and inclusivity. As a collective, we organised the specific views and problems presented by the area forums and the Have Your Say form on our residential. There was much deliberation and categorisation in identifying common themes within the 3 priorities. We separated into 3 groups, focusing on which priority we resonated with the most, and created a 6-month plan detailing how and what needs to be done. I joined the Youth Council to represent the voices of young, queer and trans people. I'm proud of who I am and I want others to feel supported and celebrated in this city. Protect trans kids and please regard our proposals with the same grace you would if they came from adults.
Hello, I'm Frank and I'm here to present to you our safety priority. So despite the city seeming safe, young people across Bristol still speak up about how they don't always feel that way, and that's why we have safety as one of our main priorities in the Youth Council. So a lot of themes came up, but the most spoken about were nighttime safety and knife crime. Many across the city feel lots of places aren't properly lit up. And as the young people of Bristol have highlighted, the impact of knife crime seems to still be a big issue that we need to draw further to our attention. In response, we want to increase awareness and drive change around knife crime and nighttime safety for young people in Bristol. So far, we have already signed up to the National Knife Crime Awareness Campaign, and the Youth Council has taken part in the Empty Shirts workshop, where we designed T-shirts with powerful messages on about knife crime and topics we feel are important. Following this, in December 2026, we're in the process of organising a conference for Year 6 around prevention with partners. This will be exploring issues such as exploitation, online safety, knife crime, and other topics too. I'm sure we all agree the young people of Bristol deserve to feel safe.
Good evening. My name is Victoria, and today I'm here to represent the Equality and Discrimination Priority Group. We want to make sure young people have an equal say in their needs and wants for a better Bristol. The themes that came up were faith, gender, and a lot more very important topics, but one that stood out consistently was racism. We listened to what young people had to say. Young people have raised concerns about safety following the reoccurring nationwide riot and the divisions it has caused. They also say that racism isn't always loud. It's done through jokes, microaggressions, and assumptions. We want to promote awareness on this matter and open a dialogue in the community to hear others' views, to be able to actively act upon it, as voices are really where it starts. So to set this in stone, we plan to facilitate wider community conversations and to combat the misinformation and misunderstanding around race and identity by creating flags that celebrate identities and diverse heroes from Bristol. The topic can be a difficult conversation, but think about people like Dr. Paul Stevenson, OBE, and Barbara Dettering. They started those conversations, and now it's time for Bristol's young people to continue them and shape a future where everyone belongs.
Good evening. My name is Barney and I'm here to talk about a subject which is very close to my heart, mental health. A few months ago I was diagnosed with autism, and while this was an enormous relief for me, it made me reflect on all the roadblocks that I had faced across the way, waiting lists, judgment from my peers and a lack of support in schools. And so since my election to the Youth Council, I have made it a priority to help others in my situation. Some of the most prevalent concerns brought up is how social media amplifies existing mental health issues, a lack of awareness of what mental health issues may look like or how they affect young people, and of course the long waiting list for crucial support, and this needs to change. But we at the Youth Council are not just going to sit by and complain, we have a plan of action. This involves raising awareness and building understanding on how these issues may affect young people. Already we've met with app developers and attended events across Bristol like our youth forums where we've gathered young people's concerns about how mental health is handled in their schools, social circles and communities. In my experience, mental health is all too often swept aside in favour of other issues. However, mental health affects all of us, especially our young people, and we in Bristol have an opportunity to become a leader in mental health awareness and services, and we must take this for the fullest extent for the good of young people, vulnerable people, and Bristol as a whole.
Hi, I'm Darren. I'm the North Community Lead. In April, youth councillors attended community cohesion events, which was also attended by city leaders. The event also involved the attendance of local young people, where we discussed connections between young people and the betterment of the community and environment we lived in. From this event, I was able to rediscover and realise the bonds that young people share within our community, how we're linked through a myriad of different things separate from just location, whether it be mutual friends, music, and shared adoration of community centres and its central importance for the ordinary young person living in Bristol. Communities are built upon young people. Young people act as pinnacles of hope in their community. They're the reason for tomorrow and contributors to the culture. Young people hold a lot of pride in their community. Their community can signify their identity, history, their hearts. The community is theirs and theirs is their community. The young people of Bristol, I believe, are aware. They're aware of what they want, what they're waiting for, and what they need. I believe that they have minds that are opinionated and sharp, bursting with ingenuity, and I know that the time that they will use those minds isn't tomorrow, it isn't the day after tomorrow, it's today. And it's right now, because they are actively shaping the future. And I know, because it's happening now.
Hello, it's Barney again. A few months ago, as well as being elected a youth councillor, I was also elected to the UK Youth Parliament, as well as Leon and Etta. And while it's a massive personal honour, it made me reflect on why I wanted this role. At first, I thought of my political ambitions and how I hope to sit in this council alongside you in the future. But this doesn't make for a very interesting, personal, or meaningful speech. And so I came across another conclusion: to help people. We as members of Youth Parliament are honoured and excited to bring the concerns of young people from Bristol, as found at the area youth forums, to a national and regional stage. But beyond the debates, travel and events, as fun as they may be, we cannot forget the core of the whole Youth Parliament, well, the youth. We believe that everyone has the right to make their voices heard, especially young people, to decide their futures, change their communities for the better, and to bring about the change they so desperately want and need. We want to amplify these opinions and bring about this change, because young people are the ones who will gain from the successes of the government and suffer from its failures. So we must be represented at all levels. To conclude, we hope everyone has enjoyed listening to us tonight, and actually we have heard some quite inspirational words tonight, I'm sure we can all agree. We hope tonight has inspired all the adults in the room to understand the importance of youth voice, the importance of proper feedback loops, and the importance of increased collaboration with the Youth Council. This is why we are establishing our call to action. We are asking all councillors to pledge to listen to and champion youth voice, support the Youth Council's priorities, and collaborate with us to push for positive change. Because we want to build a legacy that means Bristol is always a youth-friendly city. As Mahatma Gandhi said, the future depends on what we do in the present. And we young people know that a brighter future in Bristol almost certainly lies ahead if we all work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bristol Youth Council update and report. I would now like to call on Councillor Toby Wells to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Wow, that was a tough act to follow. Thank you all for everything you've presented to us, and congratulations on your maiden speeches in this chamber. I hope they are not the last speeches you make in this chamber. I also want to congratulate everyone who was elected to the Youth Council in February. We all know how nerve-wracking it can be to go through that election process, so commendations to everyone who put themselves forward and went for that. On the themes you've identified, they're all incredibly important and really well described. I haven't got time to talk about every single one, but I'm going to pick out a couple. So in the part of South Bristol that I represent, I know that despite a kind of slowly improving picture, young people are concerned about safety issues around knife crime and around lower level antisocial behaviour. We're making some interventions like the 224 youth zone. I know the feedback on that is really good, but it's not the only thing we can do, and our work can't and won't end there. We have to keep going, we have to keep intervening and making things better for your safety. On equality and discrimination, we should be led by young people who tend to be more open-minded, more progressive than the rest of us. I recognise that this isn't universally the case, and that some young people face discrimination for their gender, race, disability or faith. We stand with those people, and we will continue to advocate for them. I recently held a surgery in my ward with a little bit of a twist. It was with Year 3s from Knoll Park Primary School. I'll spare you the details, but I have to say it was genuinely thought-provoking and enlightening. Cam and I are going to continue that initiative and meet with children from a range of different year groups and a range of different schools around our ward, and I'd recommend others to do the same. Youth councillors, in your call to action, you're asking for us to listen to you, to support your priorities and to collaborate, if I summarise. The Greens will commit to doing all of those things, and I hope that others will too. Because while some of us in this chamber might not think we have too much in common,
Councillor Wells, could you sum up, please?
the one thing we share is that we were all young once. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would like to call on Councillor Katja Honchen to speak on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and members and young members. I welcome this report and I congratulate the 29 people who have been elected to serve this Bristol City Council and the 6 of you who have come today to speak on your maiden speeches. Wow. First, I came across the Youth Council elections many years ago when the candidates were campaigning in the youth facility where I was working. I was very impressed with them and with their energy and their passion and the young people taking part. And wow, you've really impressed me even more now in the energy and your imagination and your commitments. Over 11,500 young people took part in this year's elections. We of the older generation, and I'm not including me as one of those women, by the way, older women, often say that young people don't vote, they don't take part in democracy. However, I know this is not true, as I've worked for considerable parts of my life with young people, and I know that this is not true. And we can see this by the amount of people here and about the people that have come to speak to us. We need the engagement of children and young people. Decisions we elected leaders make will often affect young people far longer than any of us. A younger generation of today face many obstacles to even have a life that is similar to ours. The report highlights the impressive work undertaken by the youth councils who gather views from young people across Bristol. Through area forums, youth voice conference and wider engagement activities, hundreds of young people have had the opportunity to have their voices heard. But we need to listen, but we need not just to listen. We need to react, to put into place the things that young people prioritise, to be able to feel safe going about your everyday business, to be free from discrimination and have an equal chance in life, to have a good mental health and to have access to support for that, are the things we should be prioritising. Therefore, I thank the young members of the Bristol Youth Council, the officers who support them, and the young people who contributed to this work and have spoken today. I look forward to working with the Youth Council to help deliver positive change for young people across all of Bristol. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I would like to call on Councillor Caroline Gooch to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democratic Group.
Sorry. Really poor timing. I'd like to thank the Youth Council for your excellent report and for the dedication, energy and leadership that sits behind it. Reading the report, I was struck not only by the scale of engagement, as you mentioned, Kathy, over 11,500 young people who took part in the election, but also the hundreds more who contributed through forums and surveys. But also the seriousness with which the young people are approaching the issues which affect their lives. The priorities identified are personal safety, mental health, and equality and discrimination are not abstract policy ideas, but they're real concerns that young people experience every day in their schools, communities, and online lives. The Youth Council has done an impressive job in listening, gathering evidence, analysing feedback, and developing practical goals for change. I'm particularly pleased to see the emphasis on representation. The Youth Council brings together young people from different backgrounds and communities across Bristol and ensures that a wide range of voices are heard. That diversity is one of its greatest strengths, especially in a world with increasing levels of discrimination. Democracy is at its best when people feel that their voices matter. Through area youth forums, the Youth Voice Conference, campaigns and ongoing engagement, you are helping young people understand that they can influence decisions and shape the future of our city. As councillors, we have a responsibility not just to congratulate you on this work, but to listen to what you are telling us and to act on it. Your report is a clear call for partnership, and I am happy to support that call. So, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your hard work, your commitment and your determination to make Bristol a city where every young person feels safe, supported, included and heard. We look forward to continuing working with you and to learning from your insight and the experience that you bring. Thank you and well done.
Thank you. And finally, I would like to call on Councillor Henry Michela to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. It's a bit of a Conservative annual tradition speaking to the Youth Council's report, being the youngest Conservative in the Conservative group, and I'm sure the way by a margin, and I'm sure the way the current Conservative Party are going, no doubt I'll be doing this in another 20 years' time. But I always love to respond to your report, and congratulations on your elections and all the important work you've been doing over the past year. It was good to see that you've had a number of area youth forums taken part across the city where key issues have been highlighted, such as free mental health, knife crime and nighttime safety, which I know is such an important issue across the city. I know that everybody in this chamber will support you any way they can to ensure that we can tackle these issues together. So I won't repeat what's already been said, but thank you very much for bringing your report here, and any support that we can offer, speaking on behalf of the whole chamber, we're more than happy to help. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. That report's noted. That concludes agenda item 8. Now I'm going to the agenda item 9, Equity and Inclusion Annual Progress Report. I would like to call on Councillor Sarah Classic to move the report, please.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I'm very pleased, as Vice Chair of Strategy and Resources, to introduce the Equity and Inclusion Annual Progress Report to full Council today. The Equity and Inclusion Strategic Framework sets out our commitment to equity and inclusion and how we will tackle equality issues aimed to eliminate discrimination, foster good relations between communities in Bristol, and advance equality of opportunity. This progress report provides an overview of the work that took place between April 2025 and March 2026. And I want to start by recognising the progress reflected in this report. We've seen improvements in representation across parts of the workforce, continued investment in equality and inclusion, and a clear willingness to collect and publish the data needed to hold ourselves to account. It's important, and credit should go to the officers and staff who have helped drive the work forward. We are seeing strong leadership and governance in place with equity and inclusion embedded across the organisation. And these are positive highlights, especially in a political climate where many diverse groups are feeling increasingly concerned about the future of their hard-won rights and their place in our society. But if we're honest, the report isn't just a good news story. Some of the figures should give us pause. While we've made progress in some areas, as discussed in Strategy and Resources yesterday, pay gaps for a number of groups have actually widened, and we're still not in a position where our workforce accurately represents the diversity of our city. That's a reminder that getting people through the door is only part of the challenge. The bigger question is what happens next. Are people able to progress? Are they reaching senior positions? And do they feel they genuinely belong in this organisation? Because if representation improves on paper while inequality in pay and progression gets worse, then we haven't solved the problem, we've just moved it. And I don't say this to diminish the progress that has been made, quite the opposite. The reason these figures matter is because we've set ourselves high standards as a council and as a city. Bristol rightly expects us to lead by example. So my takeaway from this report is that we should be both encouraged and challenged. Encouraged because there is evidence that the work we're doing is making a real difference within this council, but challenged that there is still more to do, particularly from colleagues from communities that have historically faced barriers in our workplace. Let's celebrate the progress, but let's not rely on that progress to tell the whole story. Our ambition should be for a council where opportunity, progression and reward are genuinely equal for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So quick. I would now like to call on Councillor Anis Townsend to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So equality must be equitable and it must be intersectional. Those are the values that Bristol embraces and advocates for and celebrates. This weekend, for example, provided a wonderful demonstration of that. More than 15,000 people marched for Pride, celebrating the diversity that makes our city stronger. We see it when people of all faiths come together to break the fast at iftars across the city. We see it when we celebrate International Women's Day, Disability Pride and Hanukkah. And we saw it when communities across Bristol came together to celebrate a very much unofficial St Paul's Carnival, which didn't happen, James. These moments remind us of the best of Bristol, a city that values difference and welcomes diversity and understands that our communities are richer because of the many identities, cultures and experiences that shape them. But they also remind us of why this work matters, because equality cannot be taken for granted. Time and time again, we see attempts to exclude, marginalise and silence people simply because they are different. We see it in the protests upon our streets, outside places that are meant to offer sanctuary and support. And sometimes we have seen, as in this, we have this evening in this chamber, reflected in the public gallery, but also the wonderfulness in contrast to the more negative. Thank you for coming. And that's why a proactive response and approach to equity is so important. Not an approach that treats issues in isolation, but one that recognises how different forms of discrimination can overlap and compound each other. An approach that is genuinely intersectional and genuinely committed to equity. Therefore, we welcome this report, but reports alone do not create change. And change comes from the actions we take and the culture that we create and we are responsible for in this chamber. So I urge colleagues in this chamber not only to support and welcome the report as well, but to ensure that the actions become reality. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Annie. I would like to call on Councillor Carol Johnson to speak on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The annual Equity and Inclusion Report is clear. We are making progress, but there's still more to do. We welcome the report today, while some UK politicians are seeking to import the divisive anti-DEI rhetoric currently observed in the United States, courtesy of Mr. Trump. I'm reassured that there is a clear majority in this chamber committed to tackling social and economic inequalities and continuing this important work. There is much to celebrate. Racially minoritized representation in senior leadership has risen, the gender pay gap has fallen, the disability pay gap is narrowing, and over 1,300 colleagues have completed the reasonable adjustments training. But progress must not make us complacent, as significant challenges remain. The ethnicity pay gap has widened, disabled colleagues remain underrepresented, and 1 in 5 staff do not believe the Council is committed to diversity and inclusion. This reminds us that inclusion is not just measured by policies that we write, rather by the experiences of the people who work here and the communities that we serve. Most concerning is the rise of hate crime, up by 11% to over 3,000 incidents, where Bristol residents, like me, have had their dignity, identity and safety impacted by hate. We must continue to tackle inequality, strengthen community cohesion and listen to lived experience. Bristol's diversity is our strength. Our responsibility is to protect it and ensure that Bristol is a city with zero tolerance for hate. So while there is commendable work inside the Council, concerning challenges still remain. I therefore hope to see increased and continued efforts to tackle hate crime incidents across Bristol, but we welcome the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I would like to call on Councillor Sarah Classic to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democratic Group.
My speech was the introduction.
Okay. In that case, then I will move to call Councillor Mark Weston to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor. I would echo an awful lot of what's actually already been said, the joy of being the tail end Charlie when it comes to speeches. There's been a lot of very good work, but can I raise a little point? The report is incomplete, I'm afraid to say. We are missing something. If you read the report, we don't actually talk about age at all in it. There's some reference to some aids and adaptations, but actually that's more linked to disability. And there's a link to learning about menopause. But actually, within the report itself, it's a particular characteristic. We're talking about access to council services. And actually, I don't know about you, but I get an awful lot of phone calls from my residents who aren't computer literate. They then struggle to get through to anyone on the phone, and to try and short-circuit that, they have to access us. So I think there's actually a body of work to do. When we do next year's report, I think we actually do need a section when we talk specifically about age, about how we adapt our services to meet that part of our population. We're very good at gathering data. The data is there. We talk about the percentage that's over 55 in our workforce and things like that, but actually we don't talk about what we're trying to do to make sure that as we increasingly become technology-driven, all the new technologies come on, how we're going to take people with us and how they continue to access it. That's not really there. So I welcome the report. There's a lot of good work gone into it, and there's a lot of awareness that needs to be raised. There's a lot more to do. But please, for next year, we do need to think about older population as well, because they aren't in there. Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you. That's okay. The report's noted. That concludes agenda item 9. Agenda item 10, Corporate Parenting Annual Report. I would like to call on Councillor Guy Bolton to move the report.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I rise to move the report. Somewhat unexpectedly, apologies. I thought. Anyway, this is a really good report. It tells us an awful lot. It tells us how many children are in care and how many young people have access to services and how many actions are green, amber or red, and those things really matter. But the question I found myself asking as I read it was much simpler. Behind all of these metrics, are we really doing the right thing? We know, for example, that nearly 250 young people have used the Care Leavers Hub since it opened. We know that free bus travel has been secured until 2029. We know that 37 children have been brought back closer to Bristol when that was in their best interests. And we know that the number of young people living in unregulated accommodation has fallen from 12 to 1, with that one being on a pathway towards regulation. These are all really positive results. What do they really mean? It means that a young person has somewhere to go when they're struggling, or a teenager can afford to get to college or work or training, or a child is close to family, friends and familiar places, and that overall children are safer. And these numbers matter because lives sit behind all of them. And I think that's why the most important message in the report is not one of the performance measures. It's the reminder that corporate parenting belongs to all of us. Not just the members of the corporate parenting panel, not just children's services, all of us. A child in care will one day need housing. They'll need transport. They will need employment opportunities. They will need parks and libraries and leisure centres and health services, which means decisions taken in every committee of this council will affect them. Across the country, councils are increasingly recognising this. More than 100 authorities, from Somerset to Durham, have now recognised care experience as a protected or locally protected characteristic because they've realised that the barriers facing care experienced young people don't stop when childhood ends. They show up in housing, employment, health, and everyday life. And Bristol's decision to do the same was important for exactly that reason. It asks us to consider care experience, and not just when discussing children's services, but whenever we make decisions. So when we discuss a housing policy, do we think about a young person leaving care? When we talk about transport, are we thinking about whether they can get to work or college? When we discuss employment, do we think about whether they'll get a fair chance? And when we discuss any item before this chamber, do we remember that some of Bristol's children depend on us more than anyone else? And I'd love to say that I do, but I'm really not sure that I do enough. Because behind every metric is a child. And behind every council decision is a choice about exactly what sort of parent we want to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. I would now like to call on Councillor Ed Fraser to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Pulteney, for moving the report. I hope the extra minute was useful. Some people watching here, you might be shocked to learn that all 70 of Bristol City Councillors are parents with one another, because we, alongside the thousands of officers that work here, are the corporate parents. And as Councillor Pulteney says, we share this responsibility together. And it's up to us to highlight the importance of foster carers and the staff in our service across our work on all of the committees we sit on and within our communities. One thing I will remind our more austere colleagues is that helping more children into the right foster care placement can also save taxpayers tens of thousands of pounds per child every year. So the most impactful thing we can all do for our city's finances is encourage responsible people in our communities to sign up to be a foster carer. And of course, being corporate parents is a cross-partisan effort, and that's why we really welcome the 16 to 25 Care Leaver Bus Pass scheme that we collaborate on with WECA, and why I'm proud that we, as an authority, recognise care leavers as its own protected characteristic. And I hope that the incoming Prime Minister will take responsibility to get this recognised in an Act of Parliament during this term as well. This administration also re-established the virtual school in 2024 as one of our very first acts. We're doing early work in preparation for extended duties, including the educational welfare of children in need and children with a social worker. That means thousands more children can be supported, and we're well placed to respond to this. We're opening more children's homes and expanding our foster care service to make sure more children can stay in Bristol where it is safe for them to do so. And none of us would pretend that there isn't a lot more work to be done, but I hope that over the last couple of years that we've started to show that we can be a more responsible, a more attentive, and even a more loving corporate parent. Now, I know we don't always show love to each other, but what I hope we will always do is show our unconditional love as corporate parents to the hundreds of children in and beyond our city in our care, because they rely on this city's love. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I would like to call on Councillor Lisa Durston to speak on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So from my work outside of the council, I know how vulnerable children in care and care experienced young people can be to exploitation. Many have already experienced significant trauma in their lives, and some may have had to move repeatedly to keep them safe or due to a lack of suitable options in their local area. And in doing so, are uprooted from their friends, their schools, communities, and feeling they are somehow to blame for what has happened to them. That's why it's so encouraging in this report to see the focus on increasing the availability of children's homes in Bristol, and it's particularly positive that all Bristol's children's homes are rated good by Ofsted, and that more children have been able to return closer to Bristol when that is in their best interests. It's also really positive to see practical improvements for care leavers. The Care Leavers Hub is clearly making a difference, and I really welcome the Labour WECA Mayor's decision to extend free bus travel for care leavers up to the age of 25. For many young people, that means access to college, work, friends, support networks, and opportunities that might otherwise be out of reach. This report also reminds us that corporate parenting is not something for children's services alone. We are all corporate parents. Every councillor, every committee, and every part of this council has a responsibility to think about the impact of our decisions on children and young people in care and care-experienced young people. I'd like to thank the foster carers who contribute to the panel and who bring both expertise and lived experience. And I'd like to thank all of Bristol's foster carers, kinship carers, adopters, and staff who support our care-experienced children and young people every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thurston. And now I would like to call Councillor Andrea Brown to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democrat Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I've had a busy day, and so I'm working off some notes rather than a written speech for a change. But I'm reflecting that I do many things in my role as Economy and Skills Chair. So I was in a meeting of the Wessex Regional Flood and Coastal Committee this morning, which is every bit as exciting as it sounds. And then I came back to be grilled by my Green colleagues across the chamber in Members' Forum, and now I'm here talking about Corporate Parenting Panel. But Corporate Parenting Panel is one of the most important things that this council does, and it happens in an uncelebrated way. It doesn't, attendance at Corporate Parenting Panel doesn't go towards your attendance stats as a councillor, but the people in that room are there with a real passion to oversee the care that we give our kids that are looked after by us for whatever reason. They're there to challenge officers. They're there to explore ways that we can do things better. And it is a really collegiate environment, and it includes councillors of all across parties. It includes representatives of foster carers. It includes the representatives from the NHS, various other external agencies. And it's the council at its best in an awful lot of ways. And a lot of thanks for that goes to the corporate parenting manager, who, I don't know if she'll be watching this debate or watching it back, but I think we owe her and the team a debt of thanks as well for bringing that meeting together. There's also the Hope School, the Hope Virtual School, with the board has been re-established since 2024, and that's another avenue by which we help track the educational attainment of our kids who are scattered across the country. Many of them are outside the city for financial or logistical reasons or other reasons. And the Hope School plays a vital part in tracking their attainment, tracking their attendance with all the schools and all the local authorities that they are in, as well as here in Bristol. It survives on the pupil premium that the council gets for those kids, and it does a great deal of work. So I'm just going to finish, and I forgot this is a 2-minute speech and I ran out of time, so I'm just going to very quickly finish and say, I think being on corporate parenting panel is one of the best roles in this council. It's the second time I've been on the panel, and it's jealously guarded that role, but it is a responsibility for all of us. So the more that other members can do to forward the agenda of our looked after kids in care, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, I would like to call on Councillor Graham Morris to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. Most of my comments have already been made by others. So in the interest of brevity, I'll just say it's a thorough and well-presented document which clearly shows our commitment as a city to those people who are in care. It's pleasing to see that the support is, what we're aiming for is not just to get people through the care system, it's actually to give them the springboard to have a full and happy life, which is so important. And also the work that the council is doing with key partners and agencies, and to engage them and to get their buy-in to what we're trying to achieve. It is an all-systems approach to really make this work, and the city is at the centre of it. It's the driving force. And so congratulations to everyone who's making this happen.
Thank you. The report's noted that concludes agenda item 10. Agenda item 11, Police and Crime Panel Annual Report. I would like to call on Councillor Subisiso Shabalala to move the report as Bristol panel representative.
Lord Mayor, councillors and members of the public, imagine a resident calling for help whilst a major protest is taking place. They do not know about the command structures or the overtime pressures. They need support. However, everyone in Somerset is stretched. That impacts public confidence. But before we look into the systematic cracks, we must pay well-deserved tribute to our outstanding and dedicated frontline officers and contact centre. Under immense operational pressure, the 999 emergency call has been answering calls under 10 seconds. This has soared the service to 97%, making them a national leading operation. An expectational turnaround for a team that was once sat at the bottom of the league table. We must connect these pressure points directly with what the Youth Council also mentioned. The violence against women and girls and the youth violence reports. Next agenda is coming. If a woman called because they feel unsafe, facing one of the 41,000 crimes recorded against 41,000 recorded crimes of men violence against women and girls in our region, she is not thinking about operational abstractions. She is thinking about, will she get the help? Will she be believed? And will the system protect her? Now, Lord Mayor, this is why capacity, visibility, and trust matters. When the system is stretched by 185 protests in a single year, requiring 400,000 hours of police time, a staggering 61% increase in prior years, the communities are at risk. I know Sean Underwood, our neighbourhood sergeant, will tell you what protest means. It means victims wait longer, local confidence fall, harm escalates. But we can't ignore that public confidence has declined to 60%. Victim satisfaction has dropped to 65%. Satisfaction amongst hate crime has fallen to a deeply concerning 55%. This is why the funding issue is non-negotiable. Avon and Somerset has historically been underfunded by £31.50 per head compared to the national average, leaving an annual gap of £62 million compared to with other national forces which have a £146 million gap a year. Local people continue to be asked through the council tax to help sustain police pressures. This means that council tax consistently increases and is now contributing 43% of the police budget. The police and crime and national government need to shift this burden from underfunding and provide the real funding mechanism to relieve our council tax-paying residents with this unnecessary pressure. So, in closing, Lord Mayor, the PCC model is said to be replaced by May 2028 towards a more local authority or worker policing crime board. Unless the new Prime Minister changes something, we will await for those confirmation of the budget and on also the capacity that our service needs to be able to respond to the needs requested by them. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to call on Councillor Lisa Durston to speak as Bristol panelist.
Thanks. Me again. Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's important to recognise the context in which the Police and Crime Officer Commissioner came into office in 2024 after more than a decade of austerity. Policing, like many public services, has been dealing with the effects of underfunding, cuts to neighbourhood policing and the loss of services that help prevent crime. Communities have felt the consequences too, with fewer visible officers and increasing pressure on vital services that prevent people from becoming involved in crime in the first place. Reading this report, I was reminded of a recent conversation with residents in Philwood, the ward I represent. They tell me the difference it makes having neighbourhood officers and PCSOs who are known locally and understand the area. They value seeing familiar officers in the community. That visibility and local knowledge are an important part of rebuilding confidence in policing, and an important reminder that when neighbourhood policing works, people notice, and that builds trust. I welcome this report's focus on public trust and confidence, and the PCC's focus on rebuilding neighbourhood policing. Confidence remains a challenge. Residents want a police service that is visible and responsive. They regularly raise concerns about antisocial behaviour, shoplifting, and dangerous cycling on pavements. Additional government investment in neighbourhood policing is an important step forward. I also welcome the report's recognition that prevention matters. We cannot simply police our way out of every problem. We need investment in prevention, early intervention, and measures that address the causes of crime, not just the consequences. That means supporting young people, addressing the root causes of misogyny, racism, and discrimination, and ensuring communities have the services they need to thrive. This work is an important part of the Police and Crime Commissioner's agenda, and one I know she is deeply committed to. Ultimately, residents want safer high streets, safer neighbourhoods, and a police service they can trust. I welcome the direction being set by the PCC and the scrutiny that we provide as a panel. I also want to recognise the constructive way that panel members work together across party groups and council boundaries in the interests of residents across Avon and Somerset. Thank you.
Thank you. The report is noted. That concludes agenda item 11. Agenda item 12, Youth Justice Plan. I would like to call Councillor Christine Townsend to move the report as Chair of the Children and Young People Policy Committee.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So I stand to speak to the Youth Justice Partnership Strategic Plan for the next 3 years. There are 3 main aims within this: preventing offending, reducing harm and improving outcomes for young people. The governance is via the Youth Justice Partnership, and this is prescribed within the Crime and Disorder Act of 1998. Local statutory partners must engage by law. Those are the local authority, the police, health and probation. In Bristol, however, we also have representation from a much wider range of partners, including Avon and Wiltshire Mental Health, Avon and Somerset Police Crime Commissioner's Office, the voluntary and community sectors. There's a magistrate representative from Avon and Somerset area, and we have one of the largest academy trusts, the CLF, also represented on there. The work undertaken by the multi-agency teams that work within is recognised that children, young people who have contact with it often experience the structuralised disadvantage contained within the society that adults have created for them. Adverse childhood experiences, inequality of educational opportunity, structural racism and poverty are overrepresented within children and young people from certain backgrounds within this cohort. The strategy recognises this disproportionality with a partnership strategy that will continue to monitor and challenge itself and others to do better for these young people whose lives are touched by it. In May 2024, this administration inherited a system that had key indicators for this service well above national and core city averages, be that first-time entrance rates, reoffending rates for young people, or the numbers of young people in the secure estate. Over the past 2 years, there's been a sustained focus, attention and leadership at the political and corporate level has seen the key indicators not only improve, but Bristol is now lower than both national and core city rates in all three of these areas. This strategy has an increased recognition of the importance now of accessing suitable education, employment and training. This is the largest tool available to the state to safeguard and protect young people from others, often grown adults, who would play on their vulnerabilities, manipulate them into dangerous, harmful and criminal situations for their own ends. Educational opportunities, in whatever form, are also the route to opening up young people's lives, supporting them to build their confidence, take advantage of the opportunities available in our great city, develop their skills, build resilience and realise their own ambitions. This important element of the children's services will continue to be a focus for this administration in the coming years, as these truly are some of our most vulnerable children. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Christine. I would like to call on Councillor Katja Hodgkin to second the report as the Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I am pleased to second the Bristol Youth Justice Partnership Plan. We have all heard the story. A young person does something bad, is excluded from school, and from there on it is a life in and out of prison. But this need not be the way. Too often the undesirable behaviour is linked to wider issues such as poverty, trauma, undiagnosed SEND issues, poor health, exploitation and inequality. We have known for a long time, and indeed there are many schools and police forces and health services and voluntary organisations that work with young people. But too often, through lack of funding and communication, some young people slip through the net, or the services are discontinued at a crucial stage. In Bristol, as this report highlights, we have some genuinely positive achievements. We have seen reductions in first-time entrance to youth justice system, lower reoffending rates, and fewer young people entering custody. We need more of this good partnership working. I welcome the strong commitment to a child-first approach, placing the needs and potential of that young person at the centre of the decision-making. I also welcome the emphasis on trauma-informed and restorative practices. Recognising that many young people who encounter the justice system have themselves experienced significant adversity. Of course, challenges remain. The plan rightly identifies the needs to address the disproportionality of those from deprived backgrounds or those from the global majority within the youth justice system. We as councillors should look further into the housing of all families, the child and youth facilities that serve all, and the chance for a good future for all young people, even those who do not show a high academic ability at 16. This plan reflects something that I think all of us can agree on. Every child in Bristol deserves the opportunity to be safe, healthy, engaged in education, and able to reach their full potential. And maybe more of these young people might stand for the youth parliaments as those we've seen today. I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. I would like to call on Councillor Ellie Freeman to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The impact of youth crime has huge ripple effects, both for the families of perpetrators and victims. In Bristol, we've seen this all too often with the heartbreaking impact of awful crimes. Safety is a key concern for young people, as shown by the Youth Council's report earlier. Prevention is key here, and I'm pleased to see the work being done by the partnership around preventing children from offending, including in education and safeguarding and reducing serious violence. This requires careful work, building relationships, and turning strategy into practical solutions. The victims' voices are crucial. The report details all the work being done to support victims of youth crime, including increased capacity, developing better practice with the police, victim worker involvement in risk management, more data analysis, and new victim feedback systems. I'm pleased to see the partnerships being built with Empire Fighting Chance, Public Health, and other key organisations. Joining up services, processes, and activities strengthens the plan. Bringing children, families and victims into the heart of planning is vital, and it's good to see this is creating a cultural shift towards co-production and accountability. The improvements we've seen in the service have real impacts on the lives of young people and their communities across the city. I look forward to seeing the Youth Justice Partnership continue to have positive results. Thank you.
So quick, thank you. I would like to call on Councillor Louise Martin to speak on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I spent a good few years working with vulnerable young people in Bristol and South Gloss, so it was good to see some of the positives from this report. Bristol has seen a 30% reduction in the rate of children entering the Youth Justice Service for the first time compared with the previous year, and there's been a drop in reoffending rates also. Our efforts must now be on maintaining this trajectory, and I'm hopeful that this will happen. One of the key aims of this report is improving equity of outcomes in education and employment. As we all know, Bristol is a very divided city in the sense that we have areas of huge affluence and pockets of severe deprivation. The report says that of 100 households in Bristol, 8 would be experiencing moderate food insecurity and 4 would experience severe food insecurity. I know that for families in Froome Vale and across Bristol, the new free breakfast clubs will make a world of difference. Nobody can be expected to learn on an empty stomach. And life opportunities, of course, have a direct correlation with upbringing. And later in life, these children will benefit from new Young Futures hubs and youth zones, which again are positive places for them to grow and experience community. So the priorities the report outlines are sensible, workable and beneficial for young people, and the Labour Group will be voting for it. I would like to thank officers for this report and the time and effort they have spent alongside community organisations for their work to date on this. I'm sure everyone will agree this is a vital piece of work.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. I would like to call on Councillor Andrew Vani to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democratic Group.
Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor. As the penultimate speaker before our much needed and hoped for break, I'll try and keep this as brief as possible. So I just wish to associate myself with the comments made by the previous speakers, and also thanks especially to everyone who's been involved in the creation of this report, both internally and externally as well. It's a fantastic piece of work, which of course we will be supporting. Now, it will come as no surprise to you, Lord Mayor, to learn that I was a very good boy when I was younger, growing up in the idyllic, seaside setting, also known as Weston-super-Mare. I never came into contact with the authorities, and I think probably the naughtiest thing I ever did was running for a field of wheat with my friend Teresa. Whatever happened to my friend Teresa, I don't know. But anyway, the experiences of many other children are very different, and often dealing with trauma, with disadvantage, with exploitation, and inequality. As we've already heard, this plan is a child-centred plan, and it focuses on early intervention, prevention and diversion, which of course is the right approach. And that approach, as we've heard, is already paying dividends with a reduction in first-time entrance to youth justice system, lower reoffending rates, and lower custody rates as well. But this report is an honest report. It doesn't shy away from the problems we face, and in particular, the over-representation of some communities within the youth justice system. And this report sets out steps to address this. So, of course, our group is happy to support the plan, and we look forward to seeing progress as it develops over the next 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Vani. And finally, I would like to call on Councillor Henry Michel to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor, and I echo the positive comments within the report that colleagues in this chamber have made. I would just say that I believe that more remains to be done, especially in expanding education, employment and training opportunities. Bristol's NEET rate at over 6% remains well above England's average at 3.6 and continues to limit the opportunities for young people. So I look forward to working together with everybody to help find some solutions to that. But perhaps the greatest concern identified in the report is the uncertainty around future funding. As difficult public spending decisions are made, we must hope that politicians at every level continue to recognise the importance of investing in our young people, giving them the opportunities they reserve. And my Lord Mayor, my group are happy to support the recommendations in this 3-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Michel. Thank you. The recommendation is shown on the screen and it's on the report in your agenda back. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The recommendation is approved. That concludes agenda item 12. There will be now an adjournment for 20 minutes refreshments. For councillors are in rooms along the corridor and the conference hall is also available. We will restart at 8:05. Please return to the meeting promptly. Thank you. Welcome back. At this point, we suspect the meeting is likely to run past the 2.5 hours allowed within the Constitution. Please, can I move a motion to extend the time to hear the motions, estimated to be 9:15 p.m. minutes? Everyone agree?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Agenda item 13, violence against women and girls in Bristol. I would like to call on Councillor Stephen Williams to move the report as Chair of the Public Health and Communities Policy Committee.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's my pleasure to move as Chair of the Public Health and Communities Committee this agenda item, which is in response to a motion that we all agreed to pass almost exactly 12 months ago, proposed by Kerry. So thank you, Kerry, for initiating this new annual procedure. I'd like to thank all of my colleagues on the Public Health and Communities Committee. All of us at different points in the last year, in fact over the last 2 years, have spoken about this item and have showed a real commitment to addressing it. I'd also like to thank Emily for sitting on the relevant Keeping Bristol Safe Partnership Board for the last 2 years. That will continue, being joined by Carol as the new Vice Chair of the committee. There are lots of things in this report, and I'd like to thank Carol Slater, our Head of the Public Health Service, for drafting it. I can't address everything in it in the time that I have available, so I'm just going to pick some items, and no doubt colleagues will pick up some others. First of all, I'd just like to mention something that came up in public forum earlier, the new Task and Finish group being set up by the Transport Committee to look at women and girls' safety on public transport, I gather being chaired by Emma, and to apologise for the error in the report where it says it's looking at safety in parks. It's my fault, I didn't spot the error at the drafting stage. But we are also looking at safety of women and girls in parks as well, not via a Task and Finish group, but by officers reporting to me and the committee. We have 400 parks in the city. They all have different physical associations. But we are looking in detail at the park that has raised most issues, and that's Castle Park in the centre of our city, where we had a specific workshop on women's safety right at the end of April. And that brought home the tensions that we have, for instance, over lighting and landscaping in between the human needs of people who use parks, which, as far as I'm concerned, are parts of our landscape created for the benefit of humans, but also a tension with wildlife as well. I'd also like to address the issue of perpetrators. We're in the middle of the World Cup at the moment. As a Welshman, I just want to put on record, I wish England well tomorrow and for whatever comes thereafter. But I'd like to thank City and Rovers for the work they've done with us and others on raising awareness of domestic violence during high-profile sporting events. I'd also like to pay tribute to the new group being set up in Hartcliffe, with Heart, that is working with survivors of domestic violence, giving them confidence to rebuild a successful life. Finally, because these 3 minutes go very fast, I'd just like to say we make a significant investment as a local authority in this with our partners, over £3 million of public money, which I wish we didn't have to spend. But we do in order to keep a large number of women and girls safe in our city. So I commend this report. It's a new annual innovation. There may be issues with it. I'd like to hear what people think about it, and hopefully we'll come back with a better report next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I would now like to call on Councillor Fayhans to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
I'm now switched on, right. Well, we all know there's far too many women and girls in this city and undoubtedly in this room who've been subjected to violence. As a woman and a mother to 2 women, it both terrifies and angers me that this is still the case and is arguably getting worse. And there's still too much shame, too much stigma and too much blame. And even for those who aren't direct victims, the fear of violence stalks women as they go about their lives. It's also a key driver of homelessness amongst women, a complex and knotty problem requiring complex responses, which will not eradicate the impact of centuries of patriarchy anytime soon. So it's not unreasonable to ask what the Council's doing, and it's not an issue that's going away. It's important we pay attention to what we're doing, and an annual report is a helpful way of doing just that. And like Stephen said, it's impressive to see the range of people and organisations involved with this ongoing work. I think we can all take heart from the Police and Crime Commissioner's focus on violence against women and girls through the Drive Partnership and elsewhere. WECA's another key player here, and once he gets the feet under the table, I look forward to hearing more from Councillor Clark about that tackling misogyny task group that you're on. Well done. If I may, however, I would like to raise a few points of concern. My colleagues in public health will probably roll their eyes at this point, as they've heard this one before. But whilst it's clear there is a huge amount of work taking place, it's not entirely clear to the woman on the street what the outcomes of this are. I know we do a lot of monitoring in the city, so I'd be really interested to learn what the impact of all this hard work is. Can we measure our outcomes here? And if we can, do we? As this is an annual report, perhaps we can include that next time. And secondly, whilst I know it does take heroic amounts of effort to maintain spending in any area, it's still depressing to see spending falling in real terms and spending on children affected by domestic abuse potentially being cut by the Home Office. Within this context, I'm slightly cheered to note from a colleague in housing that respite rooms provision, women-only accommodation for victims of domestic violence, is being made permanent, and that a redesign of women's homelessness service is in progress that is trauma-informed and more gender-responsive, so that everybody has a safe place to flee to, which doesn't always currently happen. So, thank you, Councillor Bales, for your motion and for all the officers for pulling this together. Violence to women and girls does feel overwhelming sometimes, but we need to know what Bristol as a city is doing to tackle it. So I welcome this report very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Hans. I would like to call on Councillor Kay Baylis to speak on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Back in July 2024, full council passed my motion on ending violence against women and girls with cross-party support. I made it clear then, and I repeat it today, that motion was never intended to be a symbolic gesture. It was meant to strengthen the council's work on a matter of vital importance. On the report, place-based activity in areas of greatest need is particularly welcome. Working with the council, we have helped set up a domestic abuse coordinator role in Hartcliffe and Withywood. As a result, With Heart has been set up, and as the report says, one of the members has gone on to gain employment for the first time in 30 years. Debates, especially at full council, can feel a bit detached from what's going on outside City Hall, but this is a very clear, positive difference the council's made to someone's life, and it's something to be proud of. The increased focus on domestic abuse is sorely needed in my community, as according to the Quality of Life survey, nearly a quarter of residents think that domestic abuse is a private matter. I still take issue with the fact that this question is in the survey. The question being included reinforces a harmful idea that it ever could be a private matter, but the responses are shocking. I think the harm of including the question outweighs the benefits of the data it collects. There are other framings that the survey could use to find out residents' attitudes, but it does reflect how much work there is to do in Bristol's deprived communities. But it just goes to show how much work there is to do. I know how high tackling violence against women and girls is on the Police and Crime Commissioner's agenda. I also know that colleagues in Public Health and Communities Committee are equally committed to taking action. So while there's more work to do, I am reassured that we have elected officials cross-party who want to tackle violence against women and girls to continue to be a council priority.
Thank you, Councillor Biles. I would like to call on Councillor John Hacker to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I became aware of the nature and extent of violence against women and girls when serving on the Police and Crime panel between 2021 and 2024. It was rightly identified by the then Police and Crime Commissioner as a policing priority, and it remains so under his successor. I received briefings on the issue and found it truly shocking that such a situation prevails in this day and age. This report provides a useful update on the initiatives taken since the Silver motion was passed, including partnership work between Bristol City Council and the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. As the report indicates, a multi-agency approach is required to combat this issue. However, that has to be underpinned by political will and political leadership, which is why unanimous support for the Silver Motion was so important. But this has to be backed by actual investment, especially in preventative work and specialist services. It is absolutely essential that appropriate support is provided for victims and survivors. Public information and raising awareness of violence against women and girls is critical. I therefore thank colleagues who have worked to highlight this issue, in particular Councillors Emily Clark and Lisa Durston, as they have rightly said, we need to keep talking about violence against women and girls. The work that has taken place since the Silver Motion was passed is welcome, but there is more that should be done and more that must be done. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hacker. The report is noted that concludes agenda item 13. Agenda item 14, amendment to, to allocation of the committee seats. I would like to move the report and ask the Deputy Lord Mayor to second the report.
Seconded, my Lord Mayor, reserving my remarks.
My Lord Mayor, I'd like to remove council procedural motion CPR 12.1b, that the question be now put to this chamber.
Seconded, my Lord Mayor. No, you didn't. I've seconded it.
Can you give me a second?
What are you trying to hide?
Apologies, Council. The Lord Mayor and I just needed to discuss the procedure that we need to follow here. So we have had a motion which may be moved in debate from Councillor Renard that the question be now put. That is a closure motion under CPR 12.11. If 12.11b states that if a motion that the question be now put is seconded, which it was, I didn't quite catch who seconded the motion, Councillor Weston, thank you, and the Lord Mayor considers that the item has been sufficiently discussed, it wasn't envisaged that there would be discussion on the item, and then the procedural motion will be put to the vote. So ultimately, Lord Mayor, it's your determination as to whether or not we put the procedural motion to the vote. The mover of the original motion, should you decide that that is what we do, was yourself. You will have the opportunity, should you wish, to say a few words, and then we will move to the recommendations as stated in the report and vote on them. The bit that Council will need to have confirmation from yourself is whether or not you're satisfied that we can move to the vote on this matter.
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
I think you need to.
Yeah, I'm satisfied to go to the vote.
Sorry, can I ask a question clarification on point of information? If we vote against this procedural motion, we would then move to the amendment which we shared with you before the meeting. If we reject because the will of council is being thwarted potentially by an artificial closer motion. We are moving an amendment from the floor, which we believe we're entitled to do under standing orders.
The Lord Mayor has asked me to just respond briefly to Councillor Thomas's question. If the motion, the recommendations in the report are not approved, then the item would fall and would need to be brought back to a future meeting of this council.
Could you clarify why a motion from the floor is not being permitted? No, I haven't spoken. This is the first time I've spoken since getting re-elected
Order,
2 years
please,
ago.
order.
So,
can we listen to advice from our chief legal advisor, please? Advice. Thank you.
Just to confirm that we have a closure motion under the council's rules of procedure. If the Lord Mayor is satisfied, which he said he is, that we move straight to the vote. Nothing else can be tabled until we have disposed of this item. And if the item is not approved, like I said, it would need to come back to a future meeting.
if the item's not approved, we can. That's not. If the item's not approved, we can move an amendment from the floor. I challenge the legal officer's opinion.
Unfortunately, Councillor Thomas, that is not possible because the recommendations in the report will have been voted down by this chamber, and therefore there is nothing remaining that can be amended. With all due respect, Councillor Thomas, that is not correct.
Could you point me to what it is that means no amendment from the floor is allowed? We've discussed this with you prior to this meeting. We have sought your agreement. We understood that we've had that agreement, and we're proceeding along the lines that we believed were authorised.
Be that as it may, Councillor Thomas, that we have a separate motion that is before this chamber, which needs to be dealt with in...
We deal with that, and then we're in the status quo.
Thank you, Jerome.
Could I ask a question, please? Sorry, could I make a point, please? Maybe I've been watching too much tennis, but I think I was watching that camera over there, and the person who stood up first to propose the motion was Councillor Thomas. So therefore, that is the motion. Somebody shouted over him. I think...
No VAR here, sir.
VAR.
Thank you, Paul. I think we should have to take the advice now, this case, from our chief legal officer. Thank you.
Can I
Okay,
just
Councillor
ask why
Reinhardt.
the mayor...
You start now to propose? Can we go straight to the vote now?
Lord Mayor, quick point of order. Point of order.
Can we go straight to the vote now, please? Thank you.
So to be clear, we are now voting on whether the procedural motion will be put. Yes.
We're voting and then we can look at an amendment if it failed.
No.
Just to be clear to Council, the question, if a motion that the question be now put is seconded, yes. The Lord Mayor considers that it's been sufficiently discussed, yes. The procedural motion is put to the vote. If it's passed, the Lord Mayor will give the mover of the original motion themselves a right of reply before putting the motion to a vote. So we are voting on the procedural motion first. If that falls, then we can move a further amendment.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can we proceed now then?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Lord Mayor, can I just suggest we take 5 minutes pause? We seem to be... Hang on. I'm doing it for everybody's benefit. Just so that we get clarity on a direction of travel, the Lord Mayor becomes decisive about what we're doing, and then we get on with it. I do not want to be in this place at 10 o'clock tonight. So can we just take 5 minutes to talk about it? So PGLs and the leadership team up there, and then we get a direction of travel. We understand exactly what we're doing and move forward. Okay? In a decisive way. That's a fair way of doing it. We're not getting
Thank you,
anywhere
Councillor
doing
Clark.
this.
I heard you now, and I will discuss with you now. Thank you, Councillor Clark. I was just consulting now our Chief Legal Officer, and we agreed now we are not having adjournment 5 minutes, so we will continue to vote straight. Thank you.
So to be clear, the first vote is on whether the procedural motion will be voted on. You're voting on whether to have it's a point of procedure, and then it's a substantive vote. Okay. Apologies for any confusion.
So we're ready now to vote. E-vote. 15 seconds. Ready. Now you can vote now, please. Procedure to motion. You're going to vote now.
Just somebody say.
We are voting
I know,
on
everybody's
whether,
politicians.
Lord Mayor,
Yeah.
We are voting on whether the question should be put.
Order, please.
We're voting on whether the question should be put. And if this passes, then we will proceed to a vote on the recommendation.
Thank you.
If you can exercise
sure, yeah.
or you could choose not to exercise your casting vote, in which case the motion will fall, and then we would go straight back to the rest of the debate.
Sorry,
So you've got two options.
I will vote as well.
You can vote for. So Lord Mayor, there is a tie on the vote, and it is for you to exercise a casting vote, should you choose to do so.
Sorry, I'm voting for. Thank you for it me. So we move to vote. This will be an e-vote. Please ensure you are in your allocated seats so that your vote is recorded accurately. So you are voting on the amendment, and the vote will be open for 15 seconds. Sorry, for the recommendation. Is that ready? Yeah, it's ready to vote now. Please vote now. Okay. And then we move to the... So it's the report is approved. Okay, so 44 for, 8 abstain, and 10 against. That was approved. So we go to agenda item 15, amendment to committee memberships. I would like to move the report to ask the Deputy Lord Mayor to second the report.
Seconded, my Lord Mayor. Reserve my remarks.
Thank you. The recommendation is shown on the screen and is on the report in your agenda back. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All opposite say nay. The recommendation is approved. That concludes agenda item 15. We move now to agenda item 16, appointment of monitoring officer. In a moment, I will move this report, but before that, on behalf of full council, I would like to say thank you to our current monitoring officer, Tim O'Gara, who will shortly be leaving the council. Over the last 8 years, Tim has given us calm yet firm advice to us as councillors at our council meetings and in his wider capacity as a hugely respected Director of Legal and Democratic Services. I am sure you will wish to join me in wishing Tim all the best in his new role as Director of Law and Governance at Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch Council. Please can I ask for a brief round of applause. Thank you, Tim. I would like to ask Councillor Rob Breyer to move the report. Rob?
Excuse me. Moving the report, Lord Mayor, reserving my remarks.
I would like to ask Councillor Liz Dorson to second the report.
Second the report and reserve my remarks.
Thank you. The recommendation is shown on the screen and is on the report in your agenda back. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The recommendation is approved. That concludes agenda item 16. Agenda item 17, appointment of electoral registration officer and returning officer. I would like to move the report and ask the Deputy Lord Mayor to second the report.
Seconded, my Lord Mayor. Reserving my remarks.
Thank you. The recommendation is shown on the screen and is on the report in your agenda back. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The recommendation is approved. That concludes agenda item 17. Agenda item 18, appointment of independent remuneration panel. I would like to move the report to ask the Deputy Lord Mayor to second the report.
Seconded, my Lord Mayor. Reserve my remarks.
Thank you. The recommendation is shown on the screen and is on the report in your agenda back. All those in favour say aye. All opposed say nay. The recommendation is approved. That concludes agenda item 18. Agenda item 19, Golden Motion Green, Bristol as a city of harm reduction. The motion will be shown on the screen in the room during the proposing speech. I would like to ask Councillor Cara Lavin of the Green Group to move the motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This motion, if passed, will save lives. In 2024, 87 Bristol residents died from drug overdoses. That's more people than are sitting in this room. Every one of them was someone's mother, father, son, daughter, or sibling. Every single death was a tragic and preventable loss. This motion builds on work started under the previous administration. It seeks to progress, ratify, and strengthen that work. The Misuse of Drugs Act is 55 years old. It's beyond this council's control, but by every meaningful measure, it has failed. Faced with a mountain of evidence that alternative approaches could save more lives, successive governments have refused to act. We could be reducing drug use in our streets, freeing up police time and resources, increasing access to treatment, ending the revolving door of addiction, the NHS and prisons, and protecting children from being drawn into criminal networks. But that requires treating drug use primarily as a health issue, a harm reduction approach, rather than a criminal justice issue. Local authorities have limited powers to implement harm reduction measures. Each one typically requires a multi-agency partnership and years of work. Bristol has a strong track record, but we could go much further. Sadly, the way government chooses to enforce the law prevents us from doing so. One of the measures the motion calls for is an overdose prevention centre in Bristol. I have heard police, treatment providers, people who use drugs, residents and businesses say they believe such a facility would bring significant benefit to this city. Yet despite Glasgow now having one, all 3 Home Secretaries during the life of this administration have refused Bristol permission to establish our own. The motion also calls for Bristol's monthly drug checking service to operate more frequently and be available to a wider group of residents. Achieving that would require both additional funding and the necessary permissions. This motion sends a clear message to the organisations and frontline workers responding to drug use in Bristol. The Council understands what you are facing, and we are prepared to meet the reality of the situation, not the imagined world where we can arrest or punish our way out of it. This is personal for me. My partner, Jake Coe, died of a drug overdose in 2014. I know, and he knew while he was alive, that services which reduce stigma and put safety before criminalisation improve health outcomes and ultimately save lives. Please support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lavan. I would like to ask Councillor Abdul Malik to second the motion, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And in doing so, in seconding this motion, I feel I have a duty to the community and to the people that are suffering. I do so as a city councillor, a chairman of the largest mosque in Bristol, as a businessman, and as someone who has previously served as a magistrate. Those experiences have given me a unique perspective on this issue. As a magistrate, I saw the same story unfold time and time again, the same faces appearing before the court, a prison sentence, release, reoffending, and back before the bench. Behind so many of those cases was one common factor: drug addiction. Too often, we were dealing with the symptoms of a much deeper problem rather than addressing the cause. As a ward councillor, I see the consequences every week within my constituency. Residents contact me about discarded needles, drug paraphernalia, street dealing, and the antisocial behaviour that's associated with that. Parents worry about their children walking through parks. Shopkeepers tell me how difficult it is to run a business when drug-related activity is outside their shops. Communities deserve better than simply accepting this as the norm. As a mosque leader, I've also sat with families experiencing unimaginable grief. Not only the heartbreak of losing a son or a daughter, but the additional burden and stigma. Addiction remains such a taboo that some families feel unable to even speak about it openly. Their loved ones die and they hide the results of the outcome of the coroner's report from the community and their families. That silent suffering is a reality, and it reminds us that addiction is not simply a criminal justice issue, it's a human one. As a businessman, I also find it extraordinary that we have effectively handed an enormous market to organised criminal gangs. It is unregulated, untaxed, and unsafe. Criminals control the supply, exploit vulnerability, and profit from the misery. They have no interest in our communities. It's only about making money. My faith is very clear that intoxicants are harmful and should be avoided. Nothing in this motion changes that. This is not about encouraging drug use or normalising addiction. It is about recognising a simple truth. After 55 years, we cannot honestly say prohibition on its own has solved this problem. If doing the same thing time and time again has not reduced the addiction, organised crime, or the number of families losing loved ones, then we have a responsibility to look at this again and look at the evidence, which tells us a different solution. Evidence shows that harm reduction can reduce overdoses, encourage recovery, reduce reoffending, and save lives. As a person of faith, I believe one of the highest objectives of that faith is the preservation of every life. Every life has dignity and value, and every person deserves the opportunity to recover. If this motion, Lord Mayor, I'm going to finish. If this motion helps one more person into treatment, prevents one more overdose, reduces crime on our streets, and spares one family from the imaginable loss, then this motion is worth passing. I urge all my colleagues to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to call Councillor Shona Gemfrey to speak on behalf of the Green Group, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So Green councillors are already working hard with communities around drug hotspots. One example is the Love Stapleton Road project, where the council, the police and the community share intelligence to try and tackle the big players we've heard about who control the supply lines. This has a better chance of disrupting supply than going after the low-level runners, who are often children or otherwise vulnerable. But I'm sure we all know from bitter experience that just taking a punitive approach does not solve the problem. For people addicted to drugs, who often have other underlying issues as well, that might be physical health issues, mental health issues, or childhood trauma, the threat of the law is not going to be enough to stop their addiction. After the tragic stabbings that happened in that area in 2024, the police have put enormous extra resources into policing it. Street drugs worth over £250,000 were seized in 1 week alone. But this just moved the issue to the Barton Hill area, and it did nothing to reduce the availability of drugs in the city. Residents are no longer willing to see the same problem simply pushed from one area to another. And if you walk around St Jude's at night, you will almost certainly see drug dealing, drug use, or the after effects of it. People with drug addiction need support if they're going to stop, and they need somewhere safe to start. An overdose prevention centre would be a brilliant first step. Evidence from other countries shows that it prevents death and it helps them access support. And even if for some reason you don't believe that these people deserve support, from a purely mercenary, purely financial point of view, it just makes sense. It reduces drug paraphernalia on the street, so there's less to clear up. It reduces the drain on the NHS, and it reduces the cost on the public purse and ultimately on the taxpayer. In Bristol, I like to think we treat people as humans and we treat the problem at the source. We as a society have tried a war on drugs and it has clearly failed. We need to look back 100 years and learn lessons from the Prohibition period. We need to start treating drug use as a medical concern and not just a moral one, because we know that simply doesn't work. So let's take an approach that actually works. Let's make this public commitment to harm reduction. Please support this motion. Thank you.
I would like to call on Councillor Kaz Self to speak on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to recognise the good work that Councillor Levan has done to raise the issue of harms caused by drugs and for bringing this important motion to full council. Your personal story of tragedy and how you are trying to turn that into something positive is inspirational. So thank you for bringing this motion forward. I can say from the outset that the Labour Group will be voting for this motion as is. We support a harm reduction approach to public health and have called for the power to introduce safe consumption rooms in the past. As you may know, in 2021, the then Mayor wrote to the then Home Secretary for permission to open one. The request was quickly rebuffed. But if you want to have another go at lobbying the government, perhaps wait a week or two, then you have our support. People are going to take drugs, and you cannot legislate that reality away. And of course, there is no way to remove all harm from doing something that is inherently harmful, but minimising the chances of avoidable fatalities is a sensible approach. So we should aim to ensure that those who are taking drugs can do it in the safest way possible. If this policy is paired up with ongoing harm reduction work, such as drug checking services, it has the potential to be an effective harm reduction policy. I am a bit concerned that this is the thin end of the wedge for the Green Party drug policy. To be clear, we do not support the legalisation of all drugs. That policy would cause more harm than it prevents. There is also some objectionable language in this motion. For example, provide drug treatment workers with confidence they can speak up against government policies that limit the service they can provide at work. I have questions about this, as I'm not sure what this means in practice. Does the crux of the motion is safe consumption rooms? I will not use that as a reason to prevent the council lobbying for it. I do also want to mention the good work of Horizons, who have a base in my ward of Southmead, to support people affected by drug and alcohol issues. Our strategy for harm reduction must be citywide, using our community partners and organisations. And I'm also pleased the motion references Bristol Nights. It has run a number of important harm reduction public health campaigns, providing crucial information on drug safety and drug emergencies. I was really quite shocked when the administration tried to scrap the Nighttime Economy Advisor, considering all the excellent work that they've done in this space, but relieved when there was eventually a long overdue U-turn. To conclude, my Lord Mayor, I would like to thank Cara for bringing this motion forward. Like me, you were at the Design the Night symposium organised by Bristol Nights, and whilst I couldn't make it to your session, I'm sure it was well worth listening to. The Labour Group will be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I would like to call on Councillor Stephen Williams to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democratic Group, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm speaking on this motion, not wearing my official hats as Chair of the Public Health Committee or the Health and Wellbeing Board or the Drugs Partnership, in which Cara also sits, and really sincerely thank you for the heartfelt speech you made earlier, which clearly came from a trauma-informed position. But I'm speaking as a Liberal on behalf of my group. There's lots of things we don't have rational debates about in this country. Immigration is one, our place where we should be in the European Union is another, and drugs policy is perhaps the most depressing because, as has been acknowledged by several people, our current approach leads to death, leads to harm, and clearly isn't working. Prohibition is necessary to protect children, but is usually counterproductive amongst adults. So the punitive legal approach that we currently have, rather than a health-based approach, all it does is enrich criminals and creates a cycle of harm across society and reduces our ability to offer support for people through their addiction. So all the Council and our partners are left able to do is to focus on harm reduction. All of those harm reduction programmes cost just this Council £18 million a year. plus the cost of the police, the probation service, the court service, the NHS, everyone else. It's hundreds of millions are spent on this failed prohibitive approach that we have. Just think how better that money could be invested. So that's why we support the central theme of the motion of asking for a review of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971. Turning to the specifics of the motion, committing us to be a city of harm reduction. I did check with officers. We think we are a city of harm reduction through our practices, but it turns out we've not formally committed to be one. So this motion, if passed tonight, will commit us to being one. I would like to add that we should also be a city of recovery, supporting people through their addiction journey, through to recovery, and celebrating their success. It is something our lived experience recovery organisation, I think, would appreciate. Cara has called for a drug consumption room, a supervised drug consumption room, which is Green Party policy, Liberal Democrat policy. It seems is the policy of the Labour group, and I welcome that, but of course not of the Labour government. As Cara said, we are on our third Home Secretary during the life cycle of this council at the moment, maybe another one next week, but we'll try our luck with whoever that is. The current laws as currently constituted simply lead to a cycle of harm for addicts, for their friends, for their families, through society. So much of our crime is caused by supporting people through their addiction. It's an abject failure by successive governments. We can't address that in this chamber, but we can recommit to being a city of harm reduction and a city of recovery. That is the only rational approach left to us.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I would like to call on Councillor Mark Weston to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor. First of all, can I thank Councillor Lavin? It was a very passionate speech. I'm afraid we're not supporting the motion, but certainly it was heartfelt, so tragic for your loss. I do appreciate everything. But from our point of view, the motion, we believe that it's ideologically framed. We can't back this. We don't support it. We think there are three pillars to this when you're dealing with drugs, and one of them is prevention and demand reduction, and it is a continuation of the criminalisation. We don't agree with where you're taking this, fundamentally. That is probably one of the great divides that separates our thinking. I suspect there are several others. But the only one. Well, drug use itself, there is addiction to it. There's also the elements of the crime that goes with it. There's also the antisocial behaviour that goes with it. And we think that this motion is ideologically written, and I understand where you're coming from. It's obviously from a place of severe hurt. But we don't back that. We don't back the vision you're taking it to. And when we look at places like Glasgow, which have brought in the Thistle, well, that opened in January 2025. It was on a 3-year pilot to see how it's done, and the evidence from that is mixed so far. We don't have the report. The evidence there that's underlining this is not there. If we prevent an overdose in the room, it doesn't mean we're reducing the drug taking and the overdoses out in the city. That evidence is not complete as yet. The report for that is actually due out in 2029. Well, I know you disagree with me. I understand that. So from our point of view itself, we can't support the motion. We believe that there needs to be three pillars when it comes to this. We believe that it has to have strong enforcement against dealers in crime, has to have effective treatment and recovery services, but also prevention and demand reduction. The way this motion is written, it excludes one of those pillars. So from our point of view, I'm afraid we can't support it. Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Weston. Councillor Lavin, would you like to respond as mover of the motion, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Rather than make any further remarks, I'd like to thank everybody for their speeches and their consideration of this matter. And I wonder if the Council would join me in spending a minute in silence to remember those people suffering from the disease of addiction, those who have lost their lives to the war on drugs, and the grieving families that they leave behind. I'd like to thank the Chamber and thank you, Lord Mayor.
We move to the vote. This will be an e-vote. Please ensure you are in your allocated seats so that your vote is encoded accurately. You are voting on the motion and the vote will be open for 15 seconds. Okay, please vote now. Okay, so 55 for, no abstentions, 6 against. So the motion was carried out. Thank you. That concludes the golden motion. Agenda item 19, silver motion, Labour, home adaptations and housing. As we agreed earlier, 9:15, would you like to add extra 5 to 10 minutes to conclude this item, please?
Seconded,
Thank
yeah.
you. Okay. 5 to 10 minutes extra, as we have short now time. And also, I would like to ask everyone to keep speech short, please. Thank you. The motion will be shown on the screen in the room during the proposing speech. This motion has been altered, which means the wording has been changed with the consent of all parties. Sorry. Okay. Okay, the Chief Officer asking me to go straight. I will ask Councillor Emily Clark of the Labour Group to move the motion, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm tabling this motion today to make sure we are doing the very best we can for the most vulnerable residents in our city, people whose independence, dignity and quality of life depend on living in a home that meets their needs. I would like to start by talking about two of these residents who live in my ward of Bedminster. In my first year as a councillor, I sat opposite a woman in her living room while she was in tears, explaining how she was effectively trapped in one room. Narrow doorways meant she could not independently access her bathroom, bedroom or kitchen. Everyday tasks that many of us take for granted had become major obstacles. Her ask of the council was for her independence and her dignity. Secondly, I've been supporting a parent of a child with a severe disability who was in despair because of her living situation. Due to the nature of her child's disability, the house they were living in was completely unsuitable. In this situation, the extreme stress she was experiencing was made worse by confusion around council processes and communication. These stories are just two of many in our city. Since raising these concerns with colleagues, I've been told of similar situations right across Bristol. These are not simply housing issues. They're issues of independence, dignity, mental health, and quality of life. For some, managing a chronic condition can already feel like a full-time job. When you then add in unsuitable housing, lengthy waits, uncertainty, and a lack of clear communication, the impact can be overwhelming. I want to be absolutely clear. This motion is not a criticism of officers. I have met with officers about these cases and on one occasion accompanied them on a visit to residents. I know firsthand that staff are working incredibly hard and are deeply committed to helping people. But recognising that good people are working hard does not mean we should shy away from reviewing whether processes, resources and communication are where they need to be. This motion asks us to take a serious look at the current system. It asks us to consider whether teams such as the Making Best Use of Stock team have the support they need. It asks whether there are opportunities to improve pathways for adaptations or rehousing. And it asks whether communication can be improved to help reduce stress for families going through incredibly difficult circumstances. Ultimately, it asks whether we are doing the absolute best by residents who are already facing enormous challenges. I hope that members from across this chamber will support this motion and the review so that we can all be confident that we are delivering the best possible service to the people who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask Councillor Kelvin Blake to second the motion, please.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I'm very happy to second this motion. I'm going to keep my remarks quite short because I can see everyone completely flagging in the room. I think these meetings surprise me amazing. We can go from the debacle of the amendment vote through to these two amazing motions. And I think for me, we do some of our best work when we talk about these motions, and our intent, if we can hopefully get full council support, our intent about what this full council is saying about our priorities in this city. And I just want to reflect on, what it's like to basically go through a hospital journey, 7 months in hospital and waiting to go home. It's surprisingly transformational. Some of these small changes can be for individuals to get them back to living an independent and more fruitful life rather than stuck waiting for something to happen. So I really urge us all to support this. As Emily says, no criticism. It's a stock take and a sort of re-emphasis of the work that we need to do to kind of ensure that we transform lots of disabled people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to call Councillor Barry Parsons to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Clark and the whole Labour Group for bringing this motion, which is really timely, I think. I was speaking to disabled people and disabled groups only this morning, actually, and last week by coincidence, about their experiences of adaptations, and heard some heartbreaking stories, as you have, Emily. We considered putting in a friendly amendment to this because our group is brimming with ideas on this subject, but we decided not to, out of respect for everybody's time on this sweltering evening. Accessible homes is an area where we know we aren't doing well enough in Bristol and nationally. People are waiting much too long for assessments and for adaptations to be delivered so they can live well in their homes, particularly council tenants, actually, and that's wrong. Sadly, sometimes old homes simply can't be adapted and we need to support people to move. My committee has been spotlighting delivery of new accessible homes as well. So we know that most new affordable homes are M42 adaptable, but very few are wheelchair accessible. That has to change. A lot of this is down to resources, of course. With austerity, adaptations budgets have been cut, but with an ageing population and higher rates of disability, the need is rising every year, and we really recognise this. So we've recently reviewed the adaptation service, and on the back of that, we've hired more occupational therapists to speed up assessment. We've also increased adaptations funding for council tenants by nearly a quarter this year. But we know there's plenty more to do. Frankly, I think we need more resources. We also need more contractors to do this work. And we want to improve coordination and communication between housing, adults and children's services, because we know there's particular challenges around the complex adaptations needed for children. We want to do more co-production with disabled people, parents and carers as well. And I've already asked for a paper to come to the Homes and Housing Delivery Committee later this year, so we can bring that work forward. So this is really positive, really, really grateful for the motion. Just want to end with a small plea, really. If you brought this to me outside of the council chamber, I'd have been happy to add it to the committee agenda. You're pushing it an open door, so really a sort of plea to members across the chamber. If you've got ideas for how we can improve our work, please bring them to a work programme, setting workshop, or directly to chairs, and we can add them to the agenda and get to work. No one's got a monopoly on good ideas, after all. So, yeah, let's get together and with all the relevant committees and with the disabled community to improve lives for disabled people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parsons. I would like to call Councillor Tom Reinhardt to speak on behalf of the Labour Group, please.
This is a brilliant motion which the Chamber should support, and I will reserve my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to call Councillor Joss Clark to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democrat Group.
I'm going to try and keep this brief as well, because we don't want to be here in this room any longer than we need to. Thank you very much for bringing this motion to us today. You are definitely, as you can hear, pushing at an open door. My only kind of criticism, I know that DFG's Disabled Facilities grants make a massive difference. Andrew's mother has been in need of facilities within her home, and it was actually preventing her from living a full life. So I can see the difference it's made, her being able to have a level access shower, being able to bathe. The difference between having a strip wash and being able to have a shower is massive, and that will really, really affect the quality of your life. So Andrew's mother is a really good example of where Disabled Facilities Grant makes a massive difference. What I would say, though, is I would really hope, this is slightly straying, but I would really hope that the Labour group would push your MPs to do something about it. The grant is not good enough. The maximum grant in 1996 was 20k. In 2001, it went up to 25k. This is the maximum grant. And in 2008, increased to 30,000. I have to tell you, if you need a downstairs bedroom with an ensuite bathroom, you ain't going to get it for 30k. Honestly, you're not going to get it. The grant is not good enough for these major adaptations. Out of that money, we've got to pay for architects, planning, structural engineers, all those sorts of things have to come out of that original grant. So I really would ask you to press your MPs, if you can, to try and raise the actual grant. But this is a really good amendment, is a motion rather, and I'm really glad we didn't have an amendment, because the amendment wouldn't have added or helped this at all. So our group will be supporting it, and good luck everybody with this, because it is a really good project to move forward for the future. But I do really urge the Labour group to actually press your MPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I would like to call Councillor John Galandris to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. The Conservative Group wholeheartedly and robustly supports this silver motion. The motion is in fact very similar to a motion published recently in my name, so I bang and love it. I echo the comments made by earlier speakers, and I'm delighted there is cross-party consensus in support of this excellent motion. My Lord Mayor, making sure that home adaptations are undertaken promptly is an exemplar of both common sense and human decency. Home adaptations enable people to continue living in their own homes rather than in expensive care homes. At the same time, it is only right and decent that everyone should be able to live in accessible, safe and suitable accommodation. It is especially important that adaptations are undertaken promptly for those with a terminal illness, such as motor neurone. Time absolutely is of the essence in that sad situation. I could speak at great length in support of this motion, but I'm conscious of the hour. In summary, the Conservative Group will be voting in favour of this motion, and we hope that all members in this chamber will do likewise.
Thank you, Councillor Galandris. Councillor Clark, would you like to respond as move of the motion, please?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for their comments. Oh, sorry.
I think I was down to say something on this.
Yeah, you are.
Can't shut me up. I will be brief. I just want to say three things. Can I speak?
Yeah, you can speak here, but also in the agenda, but unfortunately, but you can speak now.
Not a problem. I want to keep my remarks just to three simple points. First of all, I'd like to say it's great that this meeting is finishing on such a positive and reflective note. For people watching this chamber, I think it's really uplifting to see that we can actually bring a motion which asks us to reflect on our own good practice and improve things. The second point I'd like to make is, I think Barry has also made a good point, which I would want the public to be aware of, which is that Under the committee system, there are alternative ways of doing that. And I'm not saying that as in a point-scoring way, but as a way to make sure that members and the public do use the committee system better. But the real point I want to make is, many years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, something came up in full council which said that when a successful motion is passed, what actually happens to it? We know they're advisory, but a motion like this, we've gone to all the trouble of reading the motion, debating the motion, I imagine agreeing the motion. Do we ever come back in 6 months' time and say, what actually happened to the practice? Did things improve? How's the services? So I would just say, maybe just put a tick on somebody's calendar to say, let's bring this back with a report to full council, because that would be more elliptical and a better way of doing things.
Thank you, Councillor Raki. So, Clark, would you like to move down the motion?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much to everyone for all their comments, including the constructive ones, which, we'll definitely consider. I think as councillors, people often come to us as a last resort. And sometimes I know I can feel quite helpless, particularly with things like this. But I have learned over the past 2 years that perseverance with the council system can make a difference, and regular communication with residents. But I drafted this motion because I want to make sure that the system's working for as best it can for everyone, not just those that have the time and the resource, the capacity to contact us. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for your comments, and please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to the vote. This will be an e-vote. Please ensure you're in your allocated seats so that your vote is recorded accurately. You're voting on the motion, and the vote will be open for 15 seconds. Please vote now. Okay, and the result is 64 for and 1 abstention. That means the motion is carried out. Thank you. That concludes the silver motion. Thank you all for attending today's meeting. The next meeting of full council will be held on Tuesday, 8th of September. Thank you, everyone, and good night.